Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Worship Ministry Training Podcast, a monthly podcast for worship leaders and worship team members. My name is Alex Nfiegin, your host. If you are a new listener, gosh, we are so glad that you're tuning in. I really hope that you are helped by this podcast. Go ahead and look through the entire archive of episodes. We try to stick to one topic per episode and be as in-depth and practical as possible. So dig through the archive list and find some topics that will be of help to you. Also want to remind our listeners, maybe you only listen on the podcast, but we have a website. It's worshipministrytraining.com. And on that website, there are a bunch of free resources that I've developed for worship leaders. If you go to worshipministrytraining.com/resources, you'll get those things for free. Just enter your email. So check that out. And today's episode is all about raising up the next generation of worship leaders. Now, one of the prime objectives in Scripture to humans is to be fruitful and multiply. And obviously, there are a million ways that we can be fruitful and multiply, but one way that we can do it as worship leaders is to intentionally raise up and invest in the next generation of worship leaders. If you and I, as the current set of worship leaders, do not intentionally raise up the next generation of worship leaders, there will be a lack of worship leaders in the world when we're gone. So that is exactly what I talk about today with Kristian Stanfill and Younker from Passion and from Passion City Church. They were intentionally brought alongside of guys like Chris Tomlin and Redman and David Crowder and a whole bunch of other people, and they were invested in by those people, and they leaned into it as well. So it was a two-way street, but they are now in the role that they have because somebody intentionally invested in them. And now they are turning around and already in their 30s beginning to pass the baton to the next generation of worship leaders behind them. So it's a really great episode full of insight and wisdom, and I'm excited to share it with you. But first, I want to tell you about our recommended product of the month, Pads Live. Pads Live is a brand new app from Core Sound Pads that is literally revolutionizing the pads game with how simple they have made it to introduce backing pads into your band. In the past, with other pads, you had to download the files, find a software program to play them, figure out how to crossfade and all that. But now you can download one app on your phone or your tablet, plug it into your sound system, build your set list within the app, and click play. You advance through the songs, they automatically crossfade, and then they fade to silence at the end of your set. It is so easy to use, and it is absolutely free. There's even a metronome option if you'd like to start playing with the click track. So Pads Live app, the links will be in the show notes. You can unlock more pads within the app itself, or even better for you is to go to coresoundpads.com, enter the promo code WMTPodcast at checkout, and you'll save 20% off your purchase. Those promo codes do not work within the app. You have to go to coresoundpads.com and enter the promo code WMTPodcast at that website, but it will automatically unlock those pads in your app. So check it out. All the links are in the show notes, and that is our recommended product this month. Let's get into today's episode with Kristian Stanfill and Younker from Passion. Hey everybody, I am here with Kristian Stanfill and Younker from Passion and Passion City Church. Guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up?
Stoked to have you. I really want to talk with you guys today about developing future worship leaders, because I feel like Passion as a movement and even Passion City Church has been doing that since the early days. You know, it started out with Chris Tomlin and Charlie Hall and Redman and Crowder back when they were a little bit younger than they are today. But they've already begun, you know, they're not old yet, but they've already begun passing on the baton to you guys and a younger generation. And I just feel like they've done a really good job at that. And I just want to know, was that something intentionally planned by the leadership of Passion? And kind of what did that look like to have these really excellent worship leaders raise you guys up and pass that baton to you?
Well, I'll just say, first of all, for Brett and I, it was pretty surreal at one point in our lives to start coming alongside these people, because they were worship leaders and songwriters that we were looking at from a distance for a long time. Brett and I have known each other since middle school, and pretty straight away when we first met, we started a worship band that we would lead in our youth group, and we were singing Passion songs, and we were studying these people from afar. And so eventually to come alongside and to get close up to them was a pretty incredible thing, and really to find out that these were men and women who actually loved Jesus, and had Jesus at the center place in their life. And everything that we had absorbed from afar was just the outworking of their love for Jesus. And so that, I think, was first and foremost the biggest thing immediately that I learned. But then just watching them week after week, when Passion City Church started, both of us just being up close to Chris and watching him craft a set list and lead a room and follow the Holy Spirit, watching him do that, it was like a master class, watching that happen every week. And I don't know how intentional it was. I mean, of course, everything is intentional in the leadership of our church and the movement. We're thinking about this, getting the younger worship leaders up close to these people. But a lot of it was just being in close proximity and learning and watching them like a hawk. Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? And asking a lot of questions too, honestly, when you could.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was one of the greatest gifts in the world, and neither one of us could have ever dreamed that, our heroes would have moved to our hometown to help start a church. And, obviously Louis is from here, but with Louis and Chris both, I think just allowing us to be close by, and it really is a lot like Jesus, where he pulled 12 guys around and said, hey, follow me and let's go do ministry together. And in the process of doing ministry, we were learning a lot and still are learning so much. And so I think that was such a cool thing. I think when I think about guys like Louis and Chris and Matt, David, Charlie, Christy, they had such amazing humility, and they knew that obviously God had called them to and had used them and is still using them in really powerful and profound ways today. But they carry that with such grace and humility. And at the same time, they're really hard workers. And I think that's one thing that getting to see like under the hood a little bit on the writing of passion songs and all this stuff is like, man, the things that hit the cutting room floor are like some of our other people's best songs. I mean, they're like, wait, we're not going to use this. This is amazing. But just to see the doing what we could do and then letting God do what God does with every one of these people, I think is probably one of the greatest gifts that we've been given as young leaders, is to go, oh, that's why God has trusted these people with some amazing songs in the world, is because they carried their gift really, really well. And so I'm really thankful for their life and their investment into us and into really laying the foundation for what God is doing here in our church today. Absolutely. I mean, we're standing on their saying yes to Jesus, and we're really, really grateful.
Yeah, and it's encouraging, I think, to me to hear that it wasn't like this like regimented, like scholarly program, but it was just they opened up their lives to you, really. And it was like, it was a two-way street, because they had to open up their lives, but you had to be hungry and you had to be asking questions, right? And and all of a sudden, like, you're just like osmosis absorbing all their like their guru-ness and also their spirituality as well. Now, you guys are younger, right? Are you in your 30s?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and my hunch is that what they did with you, you're already starting to do with the next generation at Passion City Church. Is that true?
Yes. Yes, that is true.
So, like, tell me and tell our listeners, like, what does that look like for you guys now that you're the leaders of Passion City Church? You're young, but you're already looking to the younger generation going, okay, how do I find the ones that have the right heart and have the gift? And then how do I start raising them up? So what does that look like? How are you identifying the next generation and training them?
Yeah. Well, I really want Brett to talk a lot about this, because Brett has a real gift of identifying people who are going to be in it for the long haul. A lot of the people that Brett has pulled onto our team are still around and really have become crucial parts of our worship team and culture. But, you said it, the most important thing to me is, do you have a heart that loves Jesus? Yeah. Do you have a humble heart? Do you have like the humility of Jesus cloaked on your life? Like, that's really what we look for, first of all, right out of the gate. And we do, we don't call it an audition. We call it a worship discovery. We feel like the word audition can be kind of scary,
yeah.
But we have people come in and they'll play their instrument and they'll play with the band. But really my favorite part of those is actually looking them in the eye and talking to them and getting a feel of what is your life like? What do you value? Are you here to serve people, or are you here for a platform? That is really what we're after. And I think one of the best things that we do is, before you ever lead on a stage, you're going to park cars in the parking lot for a little while.
That's good.
And that really helps us identify the humble servant. You can stand in the parking lot and park cars, which those people don't get a lot of praise. They should.
Do you guys actually tell people once they do the worship discovery or the audition or whatever? Do you actually say, we see giftings in you, but before we let you on the worship team or into our ministry, we have this process, and the process involves going and parking cars first of all? Is that what you say?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's in terms of finding people and getting people to be on our team, it comes in all kinds of different forms. This worship discovery is a big way. There's also just relationship, and as we are developing relationships with guys around Atlanta, we say, hey, come be part of what's going on. The biggest thing for anybody, no matter how you came to be on our team, is, we consider everybody that is helping out at Passion City Church to be a door holder. And this is a big cultural thing for us. It based out of Psalm 84. And it says that I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than dwell in the tent of the wicked. And this is a door holder, is somebody who says, I know what's on the inside, and I'm willing to stand on the outside to help you get on the inside with God. And so we want to have that as worship leaders. And, I think just for whatever reason, it is an interesting way of serving, because part of the way of your serving is you are up front in front of people. There's nothing wrong about that at all. And so it's a great thing. So that's the thing. We just want to maintain that heartbeat with people. And I think what Kristian is saying here, which is awesome, is it is a little bit of a lengthy process. It's not something that, you auditioned and on the next Sunday you're going to be playing in any one of our spaces to play. It's going, hey, cool, now you're on our team. Now let's be around each other. This is kind of like what we're talking about. Let's be in proximity with one another. Let's get to know one another. And what we found is the people that just want to be up there to sing, or, I just love to play music and I just want to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just going, what we found is the people who have the heart to serve God and serve his house, serve his people, and who are gifted by God, they will be around. They will stick it out. So we just don't rush, and that can be frustrating for people, and that's okay. But we weren't rushed into it, and we're not rushing other people into it. Yeah, certainly not. So, and we just wait a lot and wait on God and wait on the right opportunity. And God knows when he wants to elevate, certain people. There's a guy on our team that I can think of that he had an amazing song. And we had this great opportunity with our students. They were going away for camp, and we were like, man, it would be so great if we could play this one song. And he had been around our house for a long time. Everyone knew that he was gifted and talented and all this kinds of stuff. And so cool to see when the right moment came with the right song and the right opportunity, and how that began to open up other avenues of leadership for this guy on our team in our house. And now he's one of the heavy hitters. And so it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I really appreciate that whole idea of waiting and making people wait a little bit. I think that there's so much wisdom in that, because a lot of times we see someone with talent and we want to rush to get them involved. But something that we've been doing at our church lately is, first of all, I tell people, you're not auditioning for a team. We're getting to know you to see if you're a good fit to join our family, our community.
That's great.
And I also say you're not particularly trying out for a specific role or a spot on a specific stage, because there's a bunch of places here to serve. And our job is just to partner with you and see where your giftings are and, where might be a good fit for you. And it's a very vague, intentionally vague process, but it really kind of takes the pass or failness out of the audition or whatever you guys call it. And it really just says, hey, this is a relationship, and let's begin a relationship. And it might take a while to get you involved, but that's okay. And like you said, it tests the heart as well. Because if they're like, no, I want to sing on that big stage and I'm not willing to go serve the youth band or whatever, then obviously their heart's in the wrong spot. So that's really good. That's good stuff. So that's how you identify the heart. Now, are you guys kind of keeping an eye on all the other venues that you guys have? Like, are you checking out the youth band? Obviously you guys are really busy and you're backstage and you're writing songs and you're overseeing this whole thing, but how are you like keeping tabs on the other areas where there might be up and comers? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. On our team, we have guys and girls we call coaches who are just the best of the best on our team, just in terms of musicianship and also on the heart level. They're just stellar. And so what we try to do is spread those coaches across the house. We have 2 locations here in Atlanta, one here at 515, and we have another one up 75 at Cumberland, which probably won't mean anything to anybody. But those 2 locations, so we spread our coaches out across the house. And so we're pretty intentional with scheduling. Like if we have a new drummer, we're going to schedule that person with a great bass player who might be a coach on our team who can really help lock in with that new drummer. And then every Monday we all give feedback. We all talk about all the different rooms of the house that we were in. Here's what happened. Here's what was great. Here's what we need to work on. Here are people we need to keep our eye on. So when the time comes, you can elevate those people or keep giving those people opportunity. One thing that Louis always says, he says, sometimes you just light fires around people and see who ignites, And so you kind of find those people you want to keep giving opportunity to and see who's gonna raise up. So those coaches really help us keep an eye on that. I don't know if you have anything else.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. And for us, it's trying to get people in, like Kristian was saying, find those opportunities to where it's like, what is a little bit pushing for you? What is a little bit stretching for you? Or how could we pair you with somebody who will, that's what I love. There's, guys who travel with us on the road as Passion. Well, they might be playing in Passion Students or Passion Kids with somebody who just got on our team like 3 months ago. Well, what that does, I remember for us, like going back to what we're talking about, like when we got to play around guys like Chris and his band, well, I mean, these were amazing. Well, what it did in us is it called us up into it.
Level up.
Exactly. And so we just try and create that across all of the house. It's not just like, okay, cool, well, you're in the auditorium band, so like that's all you do. And we're one big team. We don't ask people for perfection musically, because that's not possible. I mean, I botched something pretty bad the other week, and it just happens. And so spirit of vulnerability, but I'm still here. And so that's the way it is, but in every room, we don't want to put somebody like in front of the auditorium that maybe might be ready to carry that weight of responsibility or anything, because this is our whole church. This is big Sunday, whatever. But hey, maybe they could be in Passion Students or Passion Kids. Yeah. And if something, we still want to call them up to excellence, but if something does go wrong, it's not the end of the world. And it's not the end of the world in the auditorium either. It's just, we're just trying to find like who can carry what, when.
Yeah. And I think what's cool about what you're doing is you are maybe taking, or probably in the beginning when you started doing this, you're taking a short-term loss. Like, okay, all of our best players, like we could keep them on the main stage like all the time, right, and we would have a rockin' set, but we're gonna spread them out, and we're gonna take a short-term loss so that they can develop people downstream, and then we're gonna have a long-term gain, and I think that's really wise. And that's just something, for the worship leaders listening to think about, is like, maybe you send your best singer to the youth band and like have them coach, Right. So besides hands-on training, are you guys doing any sort of other training for not just your worship leaders, we can talk about that, but also your musicians? Like, do you guys have, let's talk about worship leaders. Do you have like a group of worship leaders that you're intentionally spending a day of the week with discipling? Or is it all kind of like you said, this osmosis thing?
Yeah, I would say that Brett and I and all of our worship leaders, like Brett would say, like our heavy hitters, worship leaders, we've all pretty well identified a couple of people that we're in close relationship with. Mm. Now, we can't do that with everybody. And that's another great way to help leaders along. You identify a leader on your team and go, hey, why don't you go spend time with this person? That actually develops the leader too, as well, And so we try to identify those people, but we also try to delegate that a good bit too. So Brett's would be great to talk about this. Well, this is a major part of his role here at the church, and he's so brilliant at helping facilitate this.
Thank you, Kristian. Kristian's a great boss, so there you go. Attitude reflects leadership. It's a quote. My man. Okay, sorry. We met when we were in 8th grade, so there you go.
There you
We
go.
could riff for an hour if you want that for B-roll.
But what was the question?
Well, the question was, are you intentionally discipling other worship leaders, like picking a day of the week and, maybe doing a Bible study with them, or I don't know.
Definitely that comes in seasons for us. I mean, there are a lot of aspects and avenues to our jobs, like sometimes there is a pretty crazy travel season. Sometimes, right now we're not in one of those. And so we're actually kind of bolstering in a lot of things that are happening with church and all that. We just added a lot to our staff team. So we're kind of like finding that rhythm and groove. So to answer your question, the answer is yes. But again, it just goes back to this thing of going, hey, come along with us. And so the guys on our team who really lean into what's happening, they're the guys that probably get the most out of what's going on. Yep. Guys that tend to hang on the fringes, it just takes a little bit longer. And there's still much love and all that kind of stuff for everybody. And, not everyone has to be at everything and do everything, because there's no way that's possible. And we have done different things in the past. Like we'll do different like text journeys with guys where we'll say, hey, let's read Ephesians for the next 10 days and group up with like 2 or 3 guys at a time. And let's just text back and forth like, hey, here's what God showed me today. And sometimes we do that as a whole house, as a whole church. And so that's one little small way that maybe we'll walk through the scripture together. We have a once a month creative night where we get our worship team, production team, and any other creative who calls Passion City Church home. And so that's another little like moment for everybody. And then we rehearse on Thursdays, and obviously we're serving on Sundays. So we don't do a lot of stuff like program wise, like outside of that, because it's already a pretty full schedule. But like Kristian was saying, we might pick a guy and say, hey, for the next couple weeks, maybe every other week, like let's grab a coffee and let's just spend some intentional season together. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do, try and do that.
Brett just mentioned this, and I'm just thinking about there's probably a fair amount of people who are being led and who are leading people. And Brett just talked about it, but the idea of leaning toward your leader is really important. If I can't feel you, leaning our way or really wanting to be in the mix or alongside, then it's going to be pretty rare that I actually reach out and go, oh, hey, so we really do try to identify the people that we feel who are asking for feedback, who want to be in the mix, who want to know why things are going. Those are the people that we really lean back toward. And I even try to do that with my leaders. I want my leaders to feel that I'm on their side and that I want to learn and get feedback. And so it's just a good leadership principle.
Yeah, that's really good word to the younger leaders. And one of the questions I had on this list of questions was for you guys to maybe speak to younger leaders, and maybe they have an older leader above them and they're feeling maybe stifled or maybe like they're being underutilized. What would you say to a younger leader who is serving under someone who's older than them?
I would say really simply go buy Clay Scroggins' book. It's called How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. And I'm not even joking. Yeah. It will really set you free in a lot of ways. But I think what Kristian is saying is huge. I also think when, as a younger leader, once you even get more leadership, you'll begin to have even more grace for your leaders. When you're like, man, how did this not go this way? I tell a lot of the guys, because most of us, and Kristian included, we all sit in the middle leadership wise, and so our job is twofold. One, our job is to receive vision and transmit vision to people. And so that's one job that we have. The other job is to help our leaders lead well. We occupy a space in the organization and on the team. And so we got to somehow get the beat of what's happening in our world, and we give our leader that information so that they can make the best decisions possible. They might not make the decision that we hope they would make all the time, but our job isn't to make that decision. That's their job. Our job is to help make sure that they have what they need to make the best decision.
That's so good.
There's 2 things happening.
Yeah, like you're an ear and a mouth, and your job is to be a blessing. Your job is to be a blessing. So for all the young worship leaders listening, your job is to be a blessing to your older worship leader, whether you like it or not.
Right. Well, and you want to be a joy to work with, on all fronts, so be nice. Be nice.
Now, let's talk a little bit to the older worship leaders, or not even the older worship leaders, but the worship leaders who are our age, who aren't developing people. Like, what's at stake if we don't intentionally develop the next generation of worship leaders? Like, paint an ugly picture for us of that.
Well, it'll die with us.
Yeah.
It's about as ugly as it gets.
Yeah.
You know, if Chris and Christy and David, Crowder, who's still here at our church and a big part of what we do, if they hadn't done what they did with us, we would be dead in the water. I mean, we'd kind of be going, wow, how do we do this? You know?
Yep.
And so I think it's important to not just see the moment you're in, but also look to the future and go, where is this thing going? What is the dream in God's heart for the future of Passion City Church? And how do we get there? And who's going to carry it, you know? And you don't have to answer all of those questions right now, but you got to have your eyes open, at least. You got to put yourself in a place where you can be aware of what God is doing and aware of the people he's raising up. And so I think worst case scenario, if we fail to look to the next generation, then it stops with us, you know? And this is a great story that God is telling right now through his church and on the earth, and it's got a long arc. And so you can't just look in the mirror and go, this is it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I just always go back to, what did Jesus call us to do? You know, Jesus called us to follow him, and he said, go make disciples. He didn't say, you know, he loves our songs. We spend a lot of time writing, and what we believe in these moments and these songs, like there is a lot of power in that. But at the end of the day, when you like boil down to the essentials of everything, what Jesus wants us to do is to go find people and lead them to go follow Jesus.
Right.
So that needs to be a priority for people, no matter what you're doing. If you're in church work, yeah, Sunday needs to be great. You want to bring your best. You want the songs to sound awesome, but it's not at the expense of people. It never is.
Yeah.
That's not the way of Jesus. So you've got to find people and say, right, God, we tell our team this all the time. God is using music at Passion City Church as a way for us to be in each other's lives so that we can spur one another on towards Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, music ministry is discipleship of your team and your congregation. That's it, period, right? Yeah. So, and you know, just again for the worship leaders listening, like what these guys are saying is like, if Chris Tomlin and the others didn't disciple them, there would be no Kristian Stanfill or Brett Younker. Like there wouldn't be that. And so,
well, there might be. It just wouldn't be very good.
Yeah.
The flow would be way off.
Yeah. And we would lack all the beautiful passion music that's coming out, right?
Right.
So, you know, and I have 2 churches that are asking me, hey, do you know any worship leaders? And sadly, I cannot. I mean, they're paying well. Like, so by the way, if my listeners are like looking for a job, but honestly, like,
how well?
Pretty well. We could talk after the podcast recording.
I've got a great boss.
Yeah. Kristian, you're doing a good job. But honestly, 2 churches, they're paying well. They're looking for a qualified worship leader. I have no one that I can recommend. Can you believe that? And so it's my job and it's your guys' job and it's our listeners' job to raise up those qualified worship leaders to be able to send to new church plants or to churches who are looking for someone qualified theologically, pastorally, and musically. Like we have to, there shouldn't be a deficit, but there is I don't know about you guys, how it is out there, but out here in California, there's a deficit of worship leaders. So I want to be part of the solution of that. So, and you guys are being part of the solution by being on this podcast. So thank you. Let's shift gears and talk about your new Passion album, Whole Heart, which is really good. And as of right now, at the time of this recording, is sitting at number 1 on Billboard's Christian charts. So how does that make you feel?
That feels great. That's good, right?
That was a very unenthusiastic.
Sorry.
Well, to be fair, I just learned that.
I just learned that too. I was like, wait.
It was amazing. That's awesome.
New information. No, that really is exciting. And that's really due to the hard work of a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, we have an amazing team. We were talking about Nicole on our 6 Steps team just before. She's one part. We are 2 parts of a big team who's worked really hard to see that happen.
Yeah.
So we're really excited it's out. I mean, Passion 2018 was such a beautiful moment with 3 different arenas, 2 here in Atlanta, 1 in DC, over 30,000 college students. And so that's the sound you hear.
Yep.
I mean, it's the sound of this generation making a big deal about Jesus and worshiping him. And so we're really excited it's out. We just had a really great night at our church this past Sunday just to officially release this record as a house and pray over the songs. And we're already seeing just the impact these songs are having on people's lives. And so we're really happy, really grateful.
Yeah, that's just it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're excited, and we feel that the last couple years, last year and this year too, just this renewed sense of what God is doing has been really, really amazing to see. We've been praying that, this music would touch people. And I think even what you're saying, how awesome is it this right now, sending that slot at Billboard right now.
Right.
That's incredible. And for us, that just says, hey, God is moving and doing something through these songs, and he's touching people's lives. And so, yeah, we just hope it means something to people and it's helpful to people.
Yeah, I really have been enjoying it. I've been listening the last couple of days, and I feel like it's very attainable. Like the arrangements aren't bogged down with like too many tracks or too much electronic elements. Like it's something that a live band could totally pull off in almost any church. And so I think that's really encouraging, is that you guys didn't overproduce it so that we worship leaders feel like we can't even play those songs in our church, And also like melodically, I feel like it reminds me, don't take this the wrong way, but like it almost reminds me of like some of those early like 1970s songs that are like so simple melodically and so singable, and yet very emotionally moving,
Yeah, awesome.
So it's very congregational, and I really appreciate just the overall feeling of the album, and I would encourage our listeners to definitely check it out, and I'll put links in the show notes. But I wanted to ask you guys, after recording so many live albums, like what's one thing that you've learned about arranging music in a way that works for the congregation? Like, because this, go ahead, Kristian. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, you just said it. Just don't make it tricky, It's helping connect the songs with the people and not putting too many barriers between that. I think when you start to get smart and you get a little bit self-indulgent, you can lose people, a little bit. But honestly, when we're arranging a song, and I really want to give a huge shout out to our band who worked so hard on the arrangements of these songs. We rehearsed and fought to make sure that these songs came out the way that they needed to. But, for us, the way it works is when we start working on a new song, we just start finding our way through it, And after playing so much together and leading so much together, everybody's instincts are pretty sharp. But, again, it comes back to that awareness, just having your eyes open. Asking God for discernment, honestly, is a big part of arranging these songs and going, what does this song need, And then the church, leading the songs at the church and watching the people. Because, pretty quick when you're up there leading a new song, okay, we just lost the room, that something's not connecting here, and being okay to say that didn't work. We need to keep refining and keep working and keep doing it and being diligent. But for me, man, the goal is what you just said. I just want people to sing to God. Yeah. I really just want to put a song in the mouth of people to sing to God. And when you get tricky, it might be cool to you, but you're going to lose people. And so I think it's just making it simple and getting rid of all those barriers.
Amen. Preach it.
Yeah.
What are one or two songs from the album that you think worship leaders could consider introducing to their churches?
We're leading all of them.
Yeah, there you go. Any one or two that are really like connecting?
Yeah.
It's like, but you must
pick two.
Yes.
God, You're So Good, which is track 3 on the record. We've been singing that at church for a while now, and it just really is connecting with people in all seasons of life. People can sing it when in the beauty, and they can sing it in the badlands. It's like it's calling people up to believe something maybe they don't feel yet. Which can be really cool. So God, You're So Good is great. More Like Jesus has been a great song for us. Of course, Reckless Love is on the record. That song is just absolutely, oh my gosh, awesome. It's just slamming. Yeah. Whole Heart. Those are probably the top line. Am I forgetting any? We've been doing Hallelujah for a while at church, so
they're all pretty big churches.
Yeah. Like I said, the whole thing is very congregational, and God, You Are So Good was one that kind of stood out to me. Like, wow, that could work anywhere. So, listeners, check it out and prayerfully add it to your rotation. Guys, one last question. Any final words then for our listeners today? Maybe about raising up the next generation, or just anything that God has put on your heart to share with worship leaders around the globe who are listening to this.
Yeah, I think we would just say, keep running after Jesus. Yeah. Follow Him. That's what He wants from you, and that's going to inform so much of your leadership. And just don't lose sight of people in the process. And I think Louis always challenges us that, it will help you lead better if you've got people on your mind and in your heart, and it will help you write songs better. It will help you lead your team better. And so just look up outside of your world and your issues and your problems. They're real. You got to deal with them at some point. But like, look up to Jesus and look around you to see who's around and who God wants to use you in their life. And I think when you see God moving and you see people coming to know Jesus, you're gonna have a song to sing, and it's gonna be amazing. So yeah, thanks for letting us be a part of today.
Yeah, man, this has been great. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you guys. God bless you, and we'll stay in touch, I'm sure. All right, that's all we have time for today. I hope you are feeling encouraged and maybe challenged to start investing intentionally in the next generation of worship leaders. Again, if you and I don't do it, who's going to do it? So maybe ask your pastor for a day of the week that you can dedicate to discipling and raising up the next generation. And just pray and ask God, Lord, show me who is the next generation person that I can pour into and develop as a worship leader. So may God give you strength and grace and wisdom to do that. And I would just highly encourage you to change your schedule around and change your priorities around to begin doing that. Trust me, it will pay long-term dividends, not just for you, but for many churches around the world as we equip worship leaders to fill those positions. So that's all we have time for. Be sure to check out Passion's new album, Whole Heart. The links are in the show notes. Also, be sure to check out Pads Live, the app, and our recommended product this month. And check out worshipministrytraining.com/resources. God bless you guys as you lead, and I will see you next month with another helpful episode.
So won't you carry